Hi players, and welcome back to the PlayRooom Podcast. We have a very exciting guest with us here today. His CV's length could rival that of the South African Constitution. He's the winner of the Fleur Du Caps for his portrayal of Hull in Kvetch, recipient of the Fleur Du Caps Lifetime Achievement Award in 2012. He's directed Decadence, Curl Up and Die, Mephisto, and many, many more. Master acting professor to the stars and director that defined an epoch in South African theatre. The legendary Emeritus Professor Christopher Weare, welcome to the podcast. Hi Chris, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome, let's jump.
I think. I hope.
No,
it depends on the questions, but no, it is a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Thanks, Chris. Let's jump right in. Your entire life has revolved around theatre. Where did your love for theatre start?
I was brought out in a home that was full of theatre, rehearsals in our lounges, in every room of our house. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was actually an actress here in Cape Town in 1908 to 1914, then again in 1918 to 20. She joined a professional, or was taken into a professional company by Stephen Black. Babs Reno, Mabel Norton as her maiden name was, and she was an actress in Cape Town. My father was an actor and a director, so theatre was just everywhere. Yeah. So much so that I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be a tennis player because it was kind of in your face and everything. But I mean, I appreciate it now because I mean it was, just so many people one met. I think my socializing skills were really developed by that experience.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a really rich upbringing.
So when did the bug bite? So you thought you were going to be a tennis player. At what age were you like, okay, I'll give this a try?
I loved my sport. Tennis was very high on my agenda. Of course, it was very different in terms of the professional arena at that particular time. So when I was at Rhodes, obviously I did drama, but I had to do two teaching subjects as well because I was on a teaching scholarship. Yeah. So I had to do English and history and kind of drama. So I carried 3 majors. Played a lot of tennis there, but realized that I was good, but not in the league to dare to go into a profession. And I'd done all the right things, like do a degree, something to fall back on and everything. And then, orientated into the theatre, fell in love with somebody who was also in the theatre. So,
it just led that way. Yeah.
Yeah, the ship was sailing. I jumped on board.
Yeah. Did your parents suggest that you study drama?
No, not at all. I mean, they allowed me to make the choices I wanted to. My father obviously was very pleased to know that I was doing it. Yeah.
So they let you find your own way there.
Absolutely.
But you did because it's in your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were studying drama, did you just do performing or did you study a bit of directing too?
Never studied director formally. Obviously, one scrutinized ways that people worked. Yeah. Had quite a good experience. Worked with established actors of South Africa. I mean, Roy Sargent was in the department at that time. He came first as a visiting director, so there was lots to learn from guests as well as our lecturers. Yeah. Without being rude, one learnt a lot of what not to do.
So I'm giving you the look, Chris. No. Yeah, but it's good. Like if you have that eye, you're seeing it happen. You're going.
Yeah. But, going to a lot of theatre as well. So no formal education in directing until you actually started doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you kind of learn on the job. And did you put on your own work when you were studying or?
At Rhodes, the very first play that I directed at Rhodes was Chekhov's The Bear, a two-hander. Yeah. This was the very first one. And that excited me that what we did in one of our vacations was to do a play on our own. So didn't write and direct, mainly established texts. Yeah.
Cool. So you've been a creative who has used his voice for protest against oppression. How did you find and utilize your creative voice to speak up against tyranny?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I think what is important to say is first and foremostly, I would not consider myself ever have been an activist, but obviously one was sensitive to what was happening into the country. One realized the power that theatre was having in relation to the time and the period, the Fugard work, the John Carney work, and all of those extremely important voices. And right on our doorstep, the Cape Flats Players, Senzenina, Luta Continua, all those works. And it was through the Cape Flats Players, by invitation to come and work with them, that I really took it on to make a contribution in the best way that I could. So in that way, one had a strong voice. Obviously, there was curriculum in relation to the tertiary education that we were offering at UCT that had to be challenged in terms of its Eurocentric focus at the particular time. So one was involved with a whole lot of other people who developed curriculum there. So I would hope to think that my small voice had something to say.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that this voice has stayed with you through all the work you've done?
I think the biggest lesson one learns out of that experience was, what story are you telling, and what is the impact of the story, and what do you expect from telling this particular story, and to tell stories that just it sounds like a cliche, but to say contributes to our humanity in every way, whether it's through seriousness or humor or whatever. But I mean, I think that's the real thing that I learned out of the 80s, which were turbulent years.
Yeah. Do you have any crazy stories from the 80s and putting on work?
I think one of the kind of crazy stories. I think when Luta Continua, the end of the show, Peter Broff, who was part of the Cape Flats Players, wanted to have Nkosi Sikeleli sung at the end of the song, which of course was banned.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, he put it in, they sang it. Of course, the censor board came in and closed it down. So Peter and the rest of the players and us discussed and said, well, let's just sing it, but silently. So they kept it in the show. And I think that was one of the craziest things that I've experienced. So they couldn't ban us because everybody knew what was going. So they was going through the words silently, but nevertheless, the event still happened and still had the impact. In fact, more so that you couldn't even hear the words. You projected, but you heard the words in your heart.
Yeah.
It was a very powerful experience.
Wow.
That's really powerful.
That's incredible, Chris.
Yeah.
I remember when we were doing Mephisto and you were helping us tell the story in today's time, and you would tell us all these stories about what it was like to put on theatre during apartheid, and how the story still rings true no matter what story you're telling, how to make it relevant to the audience today. And I think from that, I kind of I got a peek into what it would have been like to perform in those times, because I mean, it just...
Well, Mephisto resonates on so many levels, you know. I mean, to prostitute your art in against what you morally believe in is a huge issue. So Mephisto is a really powerful story to tell. Yeah,
you put on Mephisto before the Lambda one. With your production
mechanicals, I mean, I first did it with students at University of Cape Town because you might not know this, but one of my strongest mentors was Ariane Manushkin of the Théâtre du Soleil, and I followed her work very well, and that's where I came across the fact that they had done a stage version of it, or she'd done an adaptation of the story, and of course I'd seen the movie of Mephisto, so the topic interested me greatly. But it's just a great. Apart from being a really relevant story and a thing, it's great to have a story and put on stage 17 people in a cast. And all the different strands that come together to tell, a very important story and all the different kinds of love that happen in the story. I just think it's a beautifully textured vehicle and a great acting experience in terms of ensemble and everything like that.
Yeah, I think anyone who was at Lambda at the time of Mephisto is like one of our tops. Like, it's
also, one of the exciting things as well was the original design by Peter Crummock, the late Peter Crummock, of which he kind of kept the concept of it, the nature of how he designed the bridge and the structure and all the rest of it. Was also exciting to be able to play in that environment as well. Yeah. It's one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character in Mephisto?
Now I've got Teresa.
Yeah.
Teresa's which you play. Yeah. I mean, I found her journey so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think if you recall, I said there's a lovely line from George Harrison's "While my guitar gently weeps." Why didn't anybody tell you how to unfold your love? So, with the Teresa, it was like maybe your unrequited love is a result of you not being able to articulate your love, So it's just that complexity that really, and the fact that everybody else kind of gets a satisfying relationship in one way or another, and she ends up with nothing. At just a suitcase in hand. It's really moving. I found.
It was. I think it was my favorite role while I was at Lambda. Like,
really
it was
beautiful
very,
role.
very special. So to do that play again. Oh. All right. What was your favorite role that you've ever played, and why?
I think. There were lots of lovely roles that I had the opportunity to play. I think my least favorite, if I try and find my favorite was Puck in a dreadful. The late Guy Butler won't hear me. He directed it at Rhodes University, but it was an awful production and it was a very difficult one to do. But you asked the question, what's my favorite? I loved playing Hal in Kvetch. That was a great role to play, fun, bold. And also because we had the privilege of playing so many performances and to have long runs and play different seasons and to be moved around. I mean, they moved us around from the studio back in the Baxter down to the concert hall, back up, and then we had the opportunity to play it at the market as well. So it was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any other favorite roles?
I'm just trying to think of it. I love the Shakespeare roles that I played. I played Malcolm in the Dark One, in the Macbeth, which was nice. And it was special as well because my father played Macduff, so it was quite interesting to play into. Interesting in the fact that I'd kind of found a way or a relationship, call it a contemporary relationship with Shakespeare, just for want of making this point. And my father was very traditional acting, so the two styles together were quite interesting.
That's cool.
So he was still very declamatory with these things. Yeah, it's really, really 50s and I mean, this was in the 70s, late 70s. So, I mean, our styles were completely different. And yet the director never really challenged us on the difference. He must have been happy with the difference or not. It was fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever note your dad and tell him, I would do it like this?
I remember... giving each other notes is something that I don't, sharing points, but, it's, you've got to find that way of that it doesn't come across as a note, but it comes across as a sharing a point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did give him a point of view once. I suggested that he was overplaying.
I love that. I love that. I wish I could have been there to see that all go down.
I don't think he took it.
He was like, "Oh, what are you?" Oh, yeah. Oh, that's very special. Right. You've always been in favor of challenging material. Sam Shepard, Mephisto, the play. What informs how you choose the shows you do?
Well, there are lots of different contexts. I mean, well, lots of them. There are a couple of different contexts. I mean, there are professional contexts, and mostly I've chosen work that I've wanted to in my professional career that or suggested to managements or been invited to do on the basis of it's a story I want to tell with particular actors in mind, and that's a strong motivation. In the context of actor training, it's also to tell stories that are important to tell at a particular time, because I think that's really crucial while you're training an actor, is to be able to invest in the story that you're telling. There has to be an allegiance to that story. So the story has to be important, but at the same time you're looking for a vehicle that serves those actors in training. So whether it's in the comic vein or a stylistic or a period vein or whatever like that, those are factors that influence your decisions of what you choose.
Yeah. Why did you choose Stupid Fucking Bird for the third years in 2022?
Okay. I like the parody, but the Chekhov I thought was important for the second years at that particular time to consolidate their scene study work.
Yeah.
And I thought that there was a number of actors there that I think could play and will play. I hope.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will. Leads in that very complex work, because they demonstrated an intelligence and a sophistication in relation to the emotional territory that Chekhov actually explores. So that was a decision all the second years there. And then the third years, I think, had done a lot of serious work in relation. They needed to do some comedy and high comedy, and it was looking at the skill set that you offered in relation to karate, gymnastics, the dance vocabulary that you had, the singing vocabulary that you had, and also giving you an opportunity to play your sense of humor and bring that sense of humor in. And if you remember, I mean, our process was exciting for me because you guys created so much of the initiative in it. Put out an idea, and you took the idea and you shaped that idea and made it grow. And I think it was a tremendous satisfaction on many sides for your own, from an acting point of view and from a teaching point of view, and that served a story that appealed to an audience, and they loved that.
It was very awesome to work with you at Lambda, because we always felt so seen by the work that you'd given us, from every scene, in the terms like we're knowing there's a challenge here, or it's a celebration of what we're good at, or whatever it is. Like, you just felt like you took such care in how you chose for each particular actor. You're a phenomenal teacher. So
I mean, that's thank you. That's part of the excitement of the position, or the position that one is in terms of teaching, is acknowledging what the individualistic talent is and finding the vehicles for that to breathe. And it's an exciting one to investigate. And I think I make the point. I don't see it as a chore. I think, and it's crucial. It's crucial to be able to do that. I mean, I was in a class, scene study yesterday, Shakespeare one yesterday, and before you watch it, obviously I'm coaching some of the scenes, but not all of the scenes, and you don't see some of the scenes until the assessment, and you go, well, I wonder what's happening. I do ask in corridors, saying, how's your scene going, just to make sure that the choice that we've made for them is going in the right direction. And then to see yesterday, without any names, there are two actors who have been challenged to play the woman in them and stop playing the little girl in them, and to see them play the woman yesterday was really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I was giving them the role to play that, for that to happen, and to see it achieved is thrilling.
Step up to the challenge.
Yeah,
it's very exciting. It's your eyes twinkle when you talk about it. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Right. Who or what has been your greatest inspiration?
Okay, I mean, in terms of how inspiration in relation to, I'm going to talk mainly in the context of or respond to that question mainly in the context of what's informed what I'm focused on now in terms of teaching and how theatre should happen. And the whole concept of company is really, really something that I nurture. I think that comes right from the fact that my father very early on was attached to a repertory company very shortly because the war broke out and he tried to go back to it and all the rest of it. But nevertheless, the English repertory company really intrigued me, and the opportunity to play that. And then, of course, under the old Cape Performing Arts Board or the Performing Arts Boards, there were companies, irrespective of whether they were privileged or not. The concept of company still is an important one, and so that has been a really strong influence for me. The concept of company, and then. Ariane Manouchkin's, as I referred to earlier, Théâtre du Soleil is also a strong company, creative on many, many levels in terms of where they do their theatre, how they do their theatre, the theatre space, etc. The Worcester Group is the company. So those have been strong influences, and that's why I wanted to bring back a repertory thing, and that's how the Mechanicals came back as well, to do that again. So in that particular context, that's been the strongest thing. In terms of teaching and how I approach, the strongest influence have been the bad examples of teaching that's happened around me. And I mean this quite sincerely and honestly and seriously, and because what I was observing was an approach that was very strongly influenced by the American systems, and particularly the method acting approach, where the emotional door was a very strong door to enter into. And I just started to really believe that in the context of South Africa, where our incoming actors and actors for training are young and 18 and 19 and sometimes 15 in their actual maturity age, to break them down, because that was the concept, and then build them out. That was a foreign concept to me, to break something down. I never had that in my schooling or anything, breaking down. It was always about building up, and so I reacted quite strongly to that kind of approach, and that's what's informed me of the route that I've wanted to take, have taken, and invest in today. And that's why I always say play the action.
Play the action. I think it's awesome that you've got, I mean, amongst the LAMTA students anyway, it's like we know to play the action. And I think that anytime we're ever around anyone, we're spreading the word that, there's this very funny clip on the internet. I'm sure you've seen it, or you might have even shown it to us, but it's this guy saying, like, I've done all this for my role, and I haven't eaten in days because my character is starving. And the guy just turns to me, he's like, you should try acting. It's easier, or something like that. Right. But and
well, there's the famous example from now the name of the movie escapes me, with Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. Same thing, where he was running around and starving himself and doing all sorts of things. And Olivia said to him, my young man, why don't you try acting? This is a very famous quote now.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of seriousness behind that. What appears to be a flippant comment, in terms of, retaining a sanity in the world in the worlds that actors have to play. I mean, you have to learn how to go into it and come out of it.
Exactly, which is creating such a safe space in theatre as well. Because then you're not scared to go the distance or play a scary role when it's just acting. You don't have to.
Exactly.
You don't have to go through it or become it or lose yourself to anything, which is awesome.
It's a craft. It's a way
craft
of understanding. Ways and to get in and ways to get and the way you come out of it.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up the creative. Thank you so much, Chris. It was lovely to hear about you and the creative side of you. Please come back next week as we chat to Chris about the professional side of things. All right. Bye.